Hi, Timothy. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today? Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. Okay, firstly, all right, I want to thank you for two things. And I thank my guest for these two things often. Firstly, I want to thank Timothy for investing in himself. Thank you for investing in yourself. And you see, because you invested in yourself, that's why you're here today. And you see, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. I was passing by a mango tree some months back, Timothy, and you see, that particular mango tree didn't catch my attention like that. Why? Because it's got no fruits on it. And I just, passed by. But just recently, you see, I was on that same road and I sighted the mango tree from afar and I moved closer. And this time around, it wowed me. It was a kind of amazing experience. Why? Because it's got a lot of fruits on it, a lot of mango fruits on it. The point is, the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, resources to becoming who you are today attracted me to you and several others, I believe. And that's why you're here, and we are also here to benefit from your knowledge and learn from you because you paid the price, and that's why you're here. So thank you for, improving yourself. I truly appreciate that and I admire that. And secondly, Timothy, thank you for honoring the invite. I truly appreciate that too. So I am quite excited to have you on the show, Timothy, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking, because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, be it in marriage, business, friendship, whatever, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, Timothy, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. Now, secondly, the second reason why I'm excited to have you on the show, Timothy, is for the sake of the listeners. You know, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. How to do this, how to do that, how to do this. A lot of hows out there. So these folks trust me for quality information. And when I came across your profile, that I was reading a little bit about you and your insight on brands and all of those things, I was excited because I believe our conversation is going to be insightful. So for that reason, Timothy, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your, personal or professional journey. We're just so curious, want to know how you got here. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Timothy, over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you for all the kind words. I really appreciate that. I think too often we don't introspectively look and think about the things we've accomplished and how far we've actually come in our careers and in our personal life. So I really appreciate that introduction. In terms of what I've done and what I've accomplished and where I've come from, I've got more than 25 years working in businesses of all sizes. I started out working at advertising agencies with some really big clients, names, household names that General Electric, Miller Coors, Huffy Sports. And I transitioned after working for a few years in an agency to a corporate side environment. And there I worked with the Kohler company, where I was the communications director of global creative services and brand. And in that time, I helped evolve their brand, define their brand. I was the first one to ever document their brand. And in that process, I got to work in more than 53 different countries with 52 different brands and create teams all over the world. Since then, and after working there, I realized there was a gap. And that gap was how agencies worked with their own customers. And I used my previous agency experience and that corporate side experience to really look at the agencies we were working with. And I realized that a lot of people weren't authentic, which is a theme you'll hear me talk about today. And they always, in a very arrogant way, came across trying to tell us what we should do. But more often than not, it was roads we'd already crossed. It was information that we already knew. And they would come with 10, 20 people to a meeting and charge us $10,000 an hour to tell us the things we already knew. It was very frustrating. So 10 years ago, I started Lore. And the mission of Lore has always been, no matter what we're trying to execute, we want to find authenticity in a company's story and their brand and their customers, and how we can link a customer with a company so that a customer can really see the benefit that a company has. Too often I see companies that they want to talk a lot about themselves, but they don't really want to talk to their customers or understand how their customers really link with that brand, that product, or that service. And that's what we've really dedicated our time to, whether it's building a website, creating an ad campaign, a product launch, starting or launching or defining a brand. We use that approach. We call it story selling. And we find the authentic elements, trunks. We call it the aha moment, when a customer can come across and go, I need that in my life. That's going to make my life better. I see how that impacts my life. Or, in some cases, it's business to business and they want to know how it impacts their customer's life. So we've done a lot to really bridge that gap and help our customers see things in a different way and help their customers see things in a different way. And that's how I've got to you today.
Amazing. You see, I love folks who tend to always serve as a corrector when they discover or notice bad impressions. And that's why I love what you said. And we're paying you to tell us what we already know. You say you notice a gap, and I love that. We're going to be picking the first question from there. We started from there. All right. Let us talk about customer-centric campaigns. All right. How to build brands that resonate. Can you talk to us about this?
So I was just kind of teasing this, right? In order to be really a truly customer-centric brand, the first thing, so let's go with a product, for example. If a company is developing a new product, a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of insight goes into that. Often they'll go out and listen to the customers. But when that product's created, there's a set of kind of features and benefits that go along with it. And often what happens is it translates down to a brief to a marketing agency and internal marketing department. And that translation is, you need to talk about these features. And you've heard this conversation probably if you're in marketing or you've ever owned a business. Well, we want to have benefit statements first. We want to be able to show how the benefit of the product helps the customer, which is absolutely 100% true. But along that path, a lot of times I see brands who are trying to bridge somewhere in between, where they want to talk about the feature, but they lose sight of, what that benefit is, or the benefit gets kind of watered down, or it's an afterthought in there. Or we focus on the benefit so much that the feature doesn't come across. And I know that sounds weird to say it that way, but I'll give you an example. For years, there's been this tension between Microsoft and Apple. Apple does a great job of talking about their camera in a way, on a phone, for example. It'll be, we're capturing a birthday, we're capturing moments, and they're talking about the experience. And it's something that, hits somebody very personally, and they see that. Whereas, traditionally what happened was Microsoft tended to talk about megapixels and how good the product was and how that's going to make your life better. But there was a disconnect because the emotion was gone from that benefit. And those are the types of things that we work with our customers on a daily basis, is not just the benefit, but getting past that benefit to the experience.
Amazing. You see, I'm learning stuffs already. I'm learning stuffs. Amazing. I love it. Okay, so let us talk about the core principles of creating a memorable brand story. You mentioned how powerful and important storytelling is. So can you talk to us about some core principles of creating a memorable brand story?
So any story, right? There's if you can look it up, it's been around for a very long time. There's a gentleman called Gustav Freytag, and he actually was the first person to he's called Freytag's Pyramid, and he documented a way to tell stories. And it's a tried and true methodology. We use it in movies, TV shows, plays, several hundred years old, and it's a tried and true way to kind of dig into it. essentially what you want to do is find a point of tension, right? Every good story, has a rising element to it, right? You're going to see a tension come and then some type of solution at the end of it, right? Any TV show, any movie kind of follows the same thing. And in advertising, we're building a brand story, it's a similar process. We want to find what that tension point is. Where is that point that a customer really needs that product? And then find their voice, not your voice, their voice. And that's the key thing. Too often companies start to try and say, well, it's got to be, my voice. Your voice is really your customer's voice. And if you do it well and you find, we like to talk about patterns, and maybe we can talk more about that in a minute. But by creating these patterns, a brand can have some identity while finding those elements that really matter to their customer. And then that's where the best stories come from. And that's where brands start to find traction.
Amazing, amazing. Okay. Now I'm beginning to understand why some brands attach storytelling to their stuffs. Okay, you wanted to talk about patterns. Let's just continue from there.
So I don't know if you've ever seen, our brain works in a very interesting way. Our brain can actually fill in patterns, and I don't remember exactly the name, but there's a psychological tool that they'll use where they'll just move a couple letters around in a sentence or in a paragraph. And if you've ever seen this, it's a very simple test, but your mind will fill in the letters automatically so that you can read it in whatever your native language is, and you'll understand what the author was trying to tell you. And those patterns become really powerful because our brain will fill them in. So when we talk about brand patterns, we see them, we've called them triggers before too, brand triggers. Sometimes it's colors, sometimes it's logos, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's a certain voice, sometimes it's the technique. Target, you can see, certain commercials you always see, Chick-fil-A, Target. Sometimes Arby's is a good example of it. When they start, there's a pattern to what they do, but they try to flip it around in the voice of the customer and in the desires of the customer and how it's going to affect them.
Okay, I never knew that, and that's why it's so good to discover a great guest like you. Thank you, Timothy. I would have to listen to our conversation over and over again. You're sharing some very powerful insights. Thank you, man. Okay, you see, some marketers, or let me say some businesses, actually find it difficult to operate on the digital marketing world. Maybe because they don't understand the trends or they are unfamiliar with how to go about it. So let us talk about some data-driven strategies for engagement, some digital marketing trends. Can you talk to us about it?
Okay, well, that's it's kind of an open territory right now, and I'll tell you why. Things change very rapidly, right? We're in the age of AI right now, where AI is starting to change how people are working, how people are doing things. And I think it's great. I think, the more you can embrace it, the better. I've lived through many changes in my career, everything from, I was at the very beginning of when computers were taking over the communications world, before people were doing everything very manually, to digital cameras and the internet and digital marketing. So I've been able to, in my career, see and grow and do a lot of those things. Now, when it comes to digital marketing and kind of growth, I see a lot of things where companies fail right out of the gate. First off, you have to realize that a lot of the platforms you're working on, whether it's social media platforms, Google, they're all working on some type of algorithm. And we'll talk about Google because this is a very kind of drawn out topic. So I'll try and be as quick about it as possible. But Google gives you an authority score or a relevance score. Think of it that way. So every time that your website, for instance, people are trying to find you or search you, Google crawls your website, looks at all your content, looks at your SEO, your search engine optimization, and all of your information, and it tries to determine how relevant you are to what the search query that somebody asked was. And what they'll look at on a scale of 100 is, what is your authority? What is your relevance score? And I see customers come to me all the time with, well, we're struggling. I don't know why we're not getting more traffic. And I'll look, and most often they have a very low authority score, meaning Google doesn't see them as an authority. So if Google's business is to give you the best answers to the question that you've asked, they're going to give somebody who's the highest authority on that subject the best placement in that list of people. Makes sense, right? So if your authority score is in the bottom half or bottom third, you might not make it to the first page. And those things are usually managed by how well you've built your website, the quality of your website, the quality of the coding on the website. That's called technical SEO. A lot of people have, don't realize that, or realize that the speed of your website, the way that it's built, the efficiency of the website all matters. Then the images, the text on the website, the headers and other things, that's more the front-facing SEO, which is what a lot of people think about. So you have to make sure those things are very accurate, very dialed in, and you need to put some effort into that. Now, beyond that, as we're talking about how to grow, the next thing that I see a lot of people do is they don't promote themselves properly. And what I mean by that is purchasing words, advertising through Google or other display opportunities online, not having good email marketing campaign, not, some businesses live and die by leads, which often, what I find with leads is you have to be very quick about it. If you get a lead in, somebody needs to be calling, emailing, or texting that lead within an hour or two of getting the lead, because that person is in the mode to buy now. And so you need to set up your marketing tools so that you can respond as quick as possible, and you need to be promoting yourself as much as possible.
Amazing. I wasn't aware that that's how Google operates. I didn't know that all of those website color, text, and all of those things matter. I didn't know. Wow. Now
Social
I
media is the
know.
same way.
Hmm.
When we talk about user-generated content, social media is
Yeah.
looking to serve the best content to the people who are viewing it. So they're using algorithms to figure out what you like. And of course, they ask you questions, and then they look at what you've been looking at and what you're spending time on. And so as you're creating content on social media, they're going to prioritize content that people want. That's why some things tend to go viral. It appears to be, or it's created by somebody who people consume a lot of, and then it gets pushed in front of more and more people all the time.
Education is light. Knowledge is light. I never knew this does. I tell you. Okay, let us talk about customer experience. So, what role does customer experience play in building brand loyalty? You got that?
Customer experience is completely tied to brand loyalty. Here's an interesting point of view on this. More and more, even post COVID, we saw a lot of companies losing brand loyalty. And the reason partially is because people have gotten much better at creating products of great benefit, of great value, and they do a good job of, promoting that benefit and value to their customers. And so as customers are looking and they're going, wow, I can get something that seems to be just as good for less or the same price, sometimes they're willing to take that risk. Now, on the other side of it, you have a company like Starbucks who consistently delivers an experience to somebody every day, and they're willing to pay a premium price to get that experience. And they want to repeat that over and over and over again, and they'll go every day. So the challenge for most businesses is to figure out how to find that happy medium between, right? You want to be able to create a product that has great value, but you also want to create a brand that they can trust, that they can rely on, and that delivers consistently day in and day out. And over time, as you build that, now you've put yourself into a position where you can charge a premium price for your product because people trust you and trust the consistency of your product or service. And that's really the key. Can you build that trust? If you don't have that, you don't have.
If you don't have that, you don't have a brand. Wow. Okay, so to bring this to an
Pleasure.
end, Timothy. Okay, Sorry about that, Timothy. So sorry. The network just went off. It just went off. And thank you so much for your patience. So to bring this to an end, Timothy, what would you like to leave the audience with? Like a final thought, maybe to businesses or entrepreneurs, CEOs. And in case they want to reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing, You shared some amazing stuff with us and it resonated. They would love to learn more. How can that be possible?
Well, what I would leave with people who are struggling with marketing or advertising and wanting their business to grow, first off, I don't want anybody to think that it's impossible or overly difficult. It's actually quite simple. A lot can be done with very little effort, just some focused effort and attention. And you can do quite a bit by yourself. And certainly there's times where you need to call in a professional or somebody to help you or guide you along the way. And we've certainly done that with customers before. So it can be really fun. It can be really exciting. And please don't, get too hard on yourself. I promise your business is viable and it can grow and it can flourish. If you want to know anything about me, my business's website is loretold.com, LOERTOLD.com. You can reach me at tim@loretold.com or check out my Instagram and LinkedIn pages that you can connect from my website.
Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, Timothy. Thank you for coming and thank you for, sharing this amazing stuff with us. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
I appreciate the opportunity. I wish you absolutely the best. God bless you.